Hello everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the 2022 edition of the Catch World Cup. It's qualifiers time for the first time in Catch World Cup's history, and we've got a Mappool Showcase with 9 difficulties for you that our teams are going to be competing on next week. I am JB Hyperion, and I'm joined by a member of the Mappool Selection Committee, 5Ws. How are you doing today, sir? Welcome to the commentary booth.
Thank you very much. It is my first time being here, and as a second-time Mappool selector for CWC, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So before we get into kind of first pick, do you want to give us like a little synopsis of what the pool will look like? Like how many maps are in what brackets and what kind of things we can expect?
Of course, the qualifiers pool consists of 3 no mod and 2 difficulties for each mod bracket, and the difficulty goal was to be placed between quarterfinals and semifinals difficulty. So will
quite a step up in difficulty from what we would normally see at the beginning of a World Cup, like the group stage, kind of around the 16 level. So do take that in mind when kind of you're observing these, and if they do look a lot harder than you would maybe expect, it's intentional. Don't worry. So yeah, I think we can get on with our first no mod pick. As 5W said, 3 no mods, and the first one is going to be I Got It, Slacks remix by Mia Regina. This one is made by Rusty and Nossery, or Momox if you haven't been keeping up with name changes. The special difficulty, 3 minutes in length, 210 BPM, the fastest map in the pool before obviously double time is going to be added later. Circle size of 4 and approach rate of 9.6. What can you tell us about this one?
This map is extremely standard. A lot of players can say they've played something similar to this map, and it can be expected that scores will be very high on this map, considering the common skill set of no mod. The uniqueness I can tell you is the spike in the ki halfway through, where you get more mechanically intense patterns that I think we can see quite a few misses on for qualifiers. So it's definitely something to practice and look out for.
Yeah, I played through the pool a couple times myself, both earlier in the week and then again last night. So a little bit of kind of comment, although obviously I'm not playing this year. This kind of felt like, in some regards, like a slower version of some of the kind of famous speed check maps that we're all very familiar with, like the Illness Lilins and Embryos. But it's not quite as fast, and it focuses a lot more on kind of mechanical wiggling and half jumps as well, which is still quite difficult at 210 BPM. So it's a bit more of a mix of kind of technical patterns and more of a pure speed check map, somewhere in between the two.
Yeah, and with the second half of the map being introduced, taps get added into the sort of skill set check to see if you are capable of hitting those.
I think a lot of players will be kind of happy to note that map pool selection and the QA team have learned from a lot of the complaints that we got last year. Far fewer huge 160 burst streams that can instantly fail you, and a lot more kind of leniency on those dense patterns, like more 1/8, 1/6, that kind of thing. So hopefully that's kind of a little bit more enjoyable for players. Less chance of just instant failing like that.
A slightly more jumpy ending compared to the rest of the map with these wider spacings, but other than that, the ending is pretty much a consistency check.
So no SS already. No mod 1 doesn't even get an SS, so that does give you a little bit of an indication as to the level of difficulty that we kind of our map pool selectors have been aiming for. So anyone who had predictions on SSing the entire map pool for qualifiers, you have already lost. I'm sorry. But yeah, that was no mod 1. And we're going to be moving on to our second no mod, which is also a specific and also, as we should say, a custom. Both of this and the previous are custom maps created specifically for CWC 2022. And this is a map that I'm getting a bit used to. I'm kind of familiar with because I mapped this. This is Christopher Larkin's Mantis Lords, remixed by Zero Kelvin, or Absolute Zero, if you are a kind of long-term player or mapper in Catch. You might have seen Aventure, a entry for Bofu recently, mapped by Dave and created by 0K Music. So this is one of his other works that he very kindly allowed me to map for CWC. Drain of 2 minutes and 14 seconds, slightly lower BPM at 180, circle size 4.4 and an approach rate of 9.4. What are your thoughts on this one?
For starters, I really like your map. Thank you for mapping this.
Oh, you didn't have to say that, but thank you.
Yeah. Comparing this to No Mod 1, I feel I could say it's slightly more unconventional with its snapping and turnarounds. And there are a multitude of patterns that can definitely catch players off guard if they are nervous. My experience with playing this is I found it really easy to miss on a few patterns if I was ever a little shaky. And I feel that's something we can definitely see when this map is being played in qualifiers.
Yeah, the kind of blurb that I got for this was technical, but obviously there's kind of a big stark difference between the very dense kind of wub step break core parts, which are obviously very dense and quite wiggly. So in order to try and avoid like half the map being quite simple and then half the map being really difficult, I was asked to make the calmer parts more focused on like high slider velocities, strong dashes, and like funky slider shapes. So hopefully it kind of is interesting all the way throughout and not just kind of sleeper part and then intense part and then that's over and you can kind of switch off again. A nice little kind of slider art section at the end there. Hopefully no one breaks on that. But so 2 customs, 2 specifics down. Moving on to No Mod 3, which is by CTV tradition, a convert. And this is the oldest map in the qualifiers pool from early 2017, Numero Parade by Rodanthe. The Mosaic difficulty is 4 minutes in length, so it's the longest map in the qualifiers pool. Also 180 BPM, circle size 4 and approach rate of 9.3. Half jumps and edge dashes combined with hypers are pretty much kind of the name of the game here. A few little bursty sections and some triples and things that you'll see, but it is really about platter control and dash mechanics in this one.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of edge jumps and half jumps. With this convert in particular, there's quite a bit being tested, and consistency-wise, it definitely shows. If you are to hold on this map, it would be very beneficial because of the amount of half jumps like those there are in this map.
Yeah, when we talk about like hard rock mod brackets, we kind of think about like where are the memory jumps and where are the kind of the edge dashes that you maybe wouldn't expect. This obviously is not as fast or as precise as hard rock, but there are those kind of moments where you'll have to maybe memorize like which jump in the kind of half jump chain is the one that is like the edge dash. In typical convert fashion, it's not exactly very kind of well laid out which jumps are necessarily stronger than others. So you do need to do a little bit of kind of memorization, or maybe feel if you're kind of just very confident in your platter control as to which jumps need you to move slightly earlier and which ones give you a little bit more of a rest period.
I agree completely. At least from my personal experience, I dramatically lowered my miscount within the first 10 tries in playing this map. It felt like with every jump section I was slowly learning it throughout each playthrough. So I think for higher end players especially, as long as this map gets practiced, it will give good scores for the team.
Yeah, I kind of chime in on that as well. As I said, I played through some of the kind of maps as well a couple times, and I felt like in typical convert fashion, again, this is one of those picks where when you miss, you kind of think to yourself like, oh, that was a bit hard, like I wasn't expecting that. And then when you kind of hit the kind of half jump sections that are like hyper dashes back to back, and one of them doesn't have a hyper dash, but you still manage to catch it anyway, it just feels really satisfying. Like you feel like you've made a really good play to catch kind of a little edge jump after a hyper dash like that.
For sure.
This section in like the kind of third quarter, I guess, is from my memory a little bit calmer. There are still a couple of sections like that though where there's very little movement, and then all of a sudden the map will throw a big wide half jump section out at you, so you can't kind of ever completely relax. Always need to keep your eyes trained to the top of the screen, looking at when the next kind of jump section's coming in, which ones have hypers and which ones don't.
Yeah, and a lot of times with this song in particular, the jumps kind of go along with the song in a sense. At least with the key eyes, it comes to a point where you can predict when the jumps are at least coming. But they vary in spacing for sure.
Very considerate of OS-mode mappers to create excellent converts for us. Thank you very much.
Greatly appreciated.
Even if they did it 5.5 years in the past.
They saw the future. They knew their map would be used.
Okay, so 3 no mods out of the way. First mod bracket done and dusted. Moving on to hidden. Cyclo Yinmin Blue by Auto Fanboy is going to be our first and only specific, and also a custom map created specifically for the pool. 2 minutes and 6 seconds in length, 152 BPM, and yep, approach rate 8 and technical patterns. Circle size 3.5 makes this one a little bit more lenient than you're maybe expecting. But yeah, when you see low-ish BPM, approach rate 8, and kind of LE and Flybot or Auto Fanboy now mapping like kind of rhythm game type music, you know there's some potential for funky patterns, high slider velocities, and lots of kind of strong mechanical play here.
Yeah, and the idea with this map in particular is helping to easily separate the hidden players from the those not so well versed in the mod by having the specific for qualifiers be such low AR. Really going to see a lot of differentiating scores on this map in particular.
Yeah, this is one of those maps that, to me, it felt like very kind of alien and unfitting of difficulty when I first played it. But after a couple of practices, it became a lot more kind of intuitive. The flow started to make a lot more sense. And again, it's very kind of satisfying to kind of hit some of these hyper sliders that are obscured by hidden. And there's a little bit of mechanical wiggling where sometimes you can stack because the circle size is a little bit bigger. Some people will find it more comfortable to wiggle. So there's a little bit of variety at play there where you can kind of adapt the map to suit your own playstyle.
I know for me personally, my scores really improved after I just played it once or twice with no mod, so I could get an actual feel for the jumps before trying it again with hidden.
So hidden 1 down, hidden 2, which is also a convert coming up. Aon no Beats by Isu Bokuro, so this is from Beren. 3 minutes and 3 seconds in length, 206 BPM, and is more of like a swing style with lots of low snappings. 4 is the circle size and approach rate of 9.3, so not too low approach rate maps, but this map is really, really interesting, and the first time I saw this, I was a little bit surprised. This to me felt kind of, personally for me, a little bit more difficult than a lot of the other maps in the pool, where, because the snapping kind of was quite tight, and obviously being a convert, there's that whole argument of some things are hyper dashes and some things are edge dashes. But again, it plays a lot better when you're kind of actually in there giving it a go yourself than it maybe is evident from watching the stream.
For sure. And at least difficulty speaking, this map is definitely easier on the reading end compared to the last one. You see that pattern just used kind of repeated a few times, but once you find your own way to hit it, you can hit it just about every time, I think.
So for any history buffs, this one from May of 2020, so a couple of years old now, getting a little bit of feature in this year's World Cup.
Gives you a beautiful storyboard to look at, though.
Oh, we had the video in Auto Fanboy's previous pick, or a hidden one. We get a little storyboard for this one as well. I can't imagine too many people, when they're focused on getting that best score in the qualifier lobby, will be paying attention to those, but it's very nice for us as viewers to kind of observe, to accompany the map during the showcase. I see someone mentioning Yoyami patterns, and I kind of like that swing feel. I mean, Yoyami certainly didn't invent swing music, but it does kind of feel like that in some ways, although with a lot wackier sliders. I think Xeno is another map that people will be very familiar with that has kind of similar swing pattern sliders that are obviously, again, quite strongly hyper-dashed, but Xenos are obviously a little bit more linear and easier to read.
Yeah, and with this map you see the slight increase in spacing in the last key eye, but other than that, pretty consistent and standard.
Okay, 2 mod brackets down, 2 to go. Moving on to Hard Rock now. We got Mukishitsu Sekai ni Irodori O, by Misomil, another one of our newer featured artists. This one from Bunrei, joining the mapping team this year, so obviously won't be playing for Team Philippines. This one is 2.5 minutes in length, 155 BPM. Circle size 5.8 with hard rock, and an approach rate naturally of 10.
A map more so built to test your mechanics. You're going to see a lot of wiggles in this map, having to be played with slightly smaller fruits than CS4. So this one can take a bit of practice where those mechanical teams will excel on playing this map for sure.
Yeah, casual players of Hard Rock might kind of remember it as that mod that makes weird spacings and impossible jumps. But I think for the most part, it's been kind of fairly well taken care of to, at least in the custom mapping scene, to try and minimize the effect of random edge jumps and things like that where possible. So as you said, this one is more focused on obviously testing your kind of reading ability with the approach rate 10, which we obviously haven't seen thus far in the pool, but also again the mechanics of platter control at an approach rate, a circle size nearing 6.
Coming into the Ki here, going to see a slight difficulty spike in terms of spacings. But other than that, it remains pretty consistent with what you've played thus far. Those sliders are really cool too.
Don't get caught out by the kind of slowing down section towards the end. Thankfully not too much of a gap ever given between notes until this bit right at the end where the movement is nice and simple, so we won't see any, hopefully, heartbreaking misses right at the end there. So moving on to Hard Rock 2, again, following previous trend, this one is also a converted OS difficulty. This one, Kinema 106's Juso, Yogurt's extra difficulty. I'm mentioning that because this is a set with a couple of extras, so just make sure that you practice the right one. 3 minutes and 10 seconds of drain, 190 BPM, circle size 5.2, so obviously standard CS4 converted to Hard Rock there, and once again, approach rate of 10.
Now with this map in particular, it kind of tests the skill of playing basic Hard Rock patterns. You see a lot of instances of the changes of Hard Rock maybe forcing you to wiggle or having some interesting spacings. But with this testing those basic Hard Rock patterns, there's quite a few of them to be seen in this map. So those who are more consistent with converted Hard Rock will greatly benefit from having this map in the pool.
Yeah, so unlike the kind of great care that has been taken to try and minimize deformed streams and edge dashes and things from the maps that were custom made for the pool, no changes have been made to the converted difficulties, so you will see in streamier picks like this some of those deformed streams which require you to take a kind of more precise platter control through them. You can't just make one big sweeping motion through a curve. And also, especially where there's kick sliders involved, you might see a lot of kind of tap dashing in the middle of streams and wiggling as well because of the smaller circle size.
This video in the background is also beautiful. I'm starting to realize how many of these picks have actually had videos and storyboards so far.
It's not something that we see that much of in Catch, like videos being added or storyboards being made. Here is a little bit more of that kind of tap dashing throughout streams that we were just talking about. Little kind of micro adjustments required into and out of hyper dashes mean that your platter control really needs to be on point to avoid overshooting or kind of missing little stacks and wiggles and things. coming into the end here, you can see there's a lot more of a focus on half jumps as well. So just like we saw in No Mod 3, there is a kind of strong focus on half jumping, hyper dashes combined with strong dashes as well. So it's not just a kind of platter control kind of deformed stream check. There is a little bit of a balance here as well in half jumping. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of our third and penultimate mod bracket, Hard Rock now done. And we got 2 picks left, 1 double time custom specific, which is going to be Ascendance's Iron by Woodkid. So not a featured artist like a lot of the stuff that we've seen before, but still something that I think is very different from a lot of the other picks that a lot of the other songs that we've seen in the pool. This one, just over 2 minutes in length with double time added and 195 BPM. So kind of slow by kind of normal standards, but punched up there with the addition of double time. Circle size 3.8 is a little bit more lenient than the kind of circle size 4 that most people would be considered with. But approach rate 8.8 with double time is kind of quite surprisingly high, I think, than a lot of people would maybe have been expecting from the qualifiers pool entry point.
Yeah, the CS 3.8 was made to slightly alleviate for that. And I can't say I've really ever played a map like this one, considering how snappy, kind of unconventional it feels to play for a specific. So I think if those aren't well versed in playing in IRDT, this could catch them off guard.
Yeah, the song itself is not kind of hugely different throughout, so a lot of the kind of early sections and then the late sections will feel musically kind of quite similar, but there's a lot of subtle changes that go into how much like anti-flow is used and how strong some of the hypers are, how much wiggling is incorporated. That means that just because you've kind of on a good run at the beginning of the map, you can't just kind of repeat that like for like, movement for movement. And there's definitely a lot more hyper dashes being thrown in here during this little section, as you can see.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that ending spike stream. I think people could definitely be caught off guard by the speed of those streams. I'm looking forward to seeing how well it's played.
Okay, so just one left, and it is Lunatic Tears by Tatch. So again, this is obviously a converted OS difficulty. 3.5 minutes in length, 264 BPM with double time added, so obviously comfortably the fastest map in the pool. And very standard convert double time fair, circle size of 4 and an approach rate of 8 going up to 9.67 or thereabouts.
A very, very old sounding song for Osu players. You can see a lot of kinda stand-stilling streams, things that are pointed straight up. Very basic control map overall.
Actually, the newest of all the converts that are kind of presented, though, only June of last year, so less than a year old. So kind of old-ish sounding song mapped in a potentially older mapping style, but brought into a kind of more modern, cleaner kind of vision, I suppose. But yeah, I do get the idea that kind of like Tatch DT or ZTS double time are like definitely staples in CWC, so it's good to see them kind of making another appearance here in some form.
For sure. And judging how this played, I would not have been able to guess how new this map was. I would have probably assumed it was made a long time ago or just made in that kind of older style that these artists have a history with.
It was really interesting, I think, that you brought up like that there's a lot of these kind of stand-stilling streams that they're kind of standstills, but they do have little micro movements in them, and because double time speeds up your kind of platter movement, it's very easy to try and like micro adjust, and it can get into your head a little bit with regards to, do I need to micro move for that? That looked like an incredibly punishing spinner bait, like all the way on the left into a hyper dash there, that I didn't notice when I played this myself. So definitely good to see these from both the viewer and player perspective to pick up on things like that.
I think I just spun wrong personally, so I was able to hit it. My bad.
If it gives you a better score in the end, then that's what counts.
Unintentionally, yes.
I like the Mint Tears username there. Little throwback to CWC 2020, the hidden quarterfinals pool. Classic ZH Steven map there. If anyone has their CWC history hats on.
I'm also looking forward to see who wiggles those patterns in the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, coming towards the end of one of the longer maps in the pool, right at the end of the difficulty, seeing some wiggling there would be... I mean, we won't see it, of course, because it's not going to be streamed, but I'd like to think that some people will attempt that.
If you manage to get a replay of that, please send it to me. I would love to see it.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. Agreed. Okay, so there is our map pool. As we said, 3 no mod, 2 hidden, 2 hard rock, 2 double time. And how the qualifiers is going to work is there's going to be a long list of different time slots that are available, and captains are going to kind of pick and choose time slots that are best suited to them. And they're going to play in a lobby with a referee, same as you've seen from previous World Cups. Only they're obviously just going to be, they're the only team in the lobby, so everyone's kind of playing in isolation, and then every team will get their chance to set as best score as they can, and yeah, so the highest scores will qualify. So do you want to kind of talk through a little bit more detail about like what the format of the qualifiers, like what the lobby is going to look like, and what the scoring system's going to work out as?
Sure. The scoring system will be slightly different than players are used to, being percent max scoring. I think the biggest immediate change that will be seen is that all mod brackets will be essentially the same max score plus spinners. So we won't see hard rock going up to 1.1 or 1.2. It'll all just be out of 1 million. So this will when you're in the qualifier lobby and playing through, you'll get to play through the maps 2 times with an optional break if you choose to have one. And it will take your team's best score overall throughout the run. So if you have a good run during one playthrough, but your team doesn't do so good, but then the second one you do worse and your team does better, the team score is the one that will be taken rather than personal best scoring. And those are the scores that will be shown on the qualifier sheet, and they'll be shown in order of who got the potential highest score of the map overall.
Yeah, so basically in the lobby, the team can pick and choose who plays what map, just as they would in a normal match. So it'll be 3 players, and their score will get summed up for a team score. They're going to play through the map pool in order, so they'll play No Mod 1, then 2, then 3, and then Hidden, just in the order that we presented them right now. And then, as was said, there's an option for a break in between the 2 playthroughs of 3 minutes. If a team decides that their score on, for example, No Mod 2 was really good, they can elect not to play that again the second time around if they don't think they'll beat it, or they want to conserve their energy, for example. and then at the very end, the best team performance of the 2 run-throughs is the one that gets picked. So they're all going to be sorted. The country with the highest score on that map is going to effectively have like 100%. And then if a country gets 95% of that team's maximum score, then they will get 95%, for example. And then each of the percentages that a team gets across all 9 picks will get added together. And then the sum of those kind of percent max will be added up, and then the teams will be sorted again. 32 highest teams will qualify for the bracket stage, and unfortunately, the 5 teams that score the lowest on average across the map pool will unfortunately not be able to progress to the knockout stages. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. So the teams will get a week to schedule their matches. If you are kind of lucky enough to be in and involved with some of the players, then maybe they'll let you know how they're getting on. Maybe they'll let you know when they're playing and what their plans are. But since this is not going to be streamed, we're all kind of very in the dark and excited to see how things work out. But we'll know in a week's time, and then obviously after the scores have all been counted and we know who's qualifying and what kind of happens next, then we'll repeat the process just like we do in previous years. We'll have a round of 32 bracket. We'll know based on the seeding who's going to be playing who, and then we'll have a new map pool, and then some teams will win and some teams will lose, some will get knocked out and go home, and then we'll have new map pools, and we'll carry on like this into June, and eventually, yeah, we will have a 2022 Oscatch World Cup champion. So I hope you're all looking forward to that as much as we are.
Very exciting for sure. In the meantime, while we're waiting for qualifier scores, I think it would be beneficial to read the CWC wiki page. I'm going to be honest, I may or may not have learned a bit from reading it myself, being surprised at a bit of the information that was there.
So that's some very sound advice. So yeah, that's going to be everything from us for now. We're going to be, if you want to, obviously, you're more than welcome to kind of enjoy the rest of your day, go outside, get some fresh air, and enjoy the sunshine or the night time, depending on where you are. But we're going to be running a little bit of a kind of fun predictions, discussion, preview game over on my channel in a little bit, if anyone wants to come and say hi. But thank you everyone so much for watching this Qualifiers Mappool Showcase. If you want to keep up to date with everything that's happening, please make sure to follow the channel, OS Live. Follow us on Twitter as well, so you get notified of when the stream goes live, if that's something that you're interested in doing too. Thanks everybody for being here, for making this kind of one of the best parts of the year for Catch as a community. And thanks to my co-commentator, 5W, for their first kind of foray into the World Cup scene, and obviously also for helping to select some of the amazing maps that you've seen on stream today. So if you have any closing comments on like how the experience has gone for you thus far, then feel free to say hi to the camera.
Definitely, I shouldn't be one to pick favorites, but I do want to say I think this is a vast improvement over last year. Being able to learn from the mistakes when custom maps were first incorporated has greatly benefited both the process and I think the result as well. So I hope to see more of this beautiful Twitch chat, and thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so yeah, we've already said everything that needs to be said. So do follow the wiki, follow the stream, follow us on Twitter, and yeah, we'll see you all in a week's time with some results, some statistics, and more maps. So hope you guys all have a good one, and yeah, we'll see you all very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.